Great group here today. The Republicans are still in charge in Polk County. Yes, sir. And I'm proud to be a conservative Republican. I just want you to know that. To try and list all of the accomplishments that this young man has made in his career would take too long. I've got 4 pages here. But I've only picked 2 or 3 things that in introducing him of his accomplishments that he has made. The Lieutenant Governor attended Florida State University, where he earned a bachelor's degree, science degree with a major in political science. He then attended the University of Florida College of Law, where he received a Juris Doctor's degree in 1987. In September of 2006, the Lieutenant Governor was selected by Charles Crist, the Republican nominee for governor, to be his running mate. He was sworn in as Florida's 17th Lieutenant Governor in January of 2007. As Lieutenant Governor, he serves as Chairman of Florida's Children's Cabinet, Chairman of Space Florida, Chairman of the Florida Sports Foundation, and oversees the Department of High Safety and Motor Vehicles, as well as the Office of Drug Control. His wife is named Cindy and is a 4th generation Floridian. They have 1 child, a son named Jackson. And what he and I have in common, we both attended Boys State, but I attended Boys State before he was born. Let's welcome the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Florida and a candidate for Attorney General. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind introduction, Mr. Chairman. It is great to be here with you. This is a great turnout, especially for the middle of the day, the middle of the week. You mentioned the introduction. The smartest thing I ever did was marry my wife, Cindy. And the greatest thing that ever happened to me was have our son, Jackson. When first time I went out with my wife, she asked me 3 questions. This will tell you how careful she is. She asked, first of all, have you ever been married? The answer was no. She asked, do you have any children? The answer is still no. And then she asked, are you a Republican? I passed the test, and we just had our 15th wedding anniversary. Jackson is just such a joy. And about 6 months before the presidential election, we were at dinner at the Capitol Grill in Orlando with 4 other couples. And he was 3.5 at the time, so he was over off the edge of the table with crayons and whatever they gave him to color on. And the conversation eventually turned to politics, like it always does when we're at the table. And one of the couples were Democrats, and the woman of that couple said something about Barack Obama, and suddenly my 3-year-old, this brightens him up, and he interrupts and he says, Barack Obama is bad because he wants to take our money so we can't buy toys and Happy Meals. And this woman was shocked. She didn't know what to do. She stood up and looked at him. She didn't want to argue with 3-year-olds, so she proclaimed that she had to go to the bathroom. So chalk 1 up. Jackson won his first political debate. But as a father of a 5-year-old, and I chair the Children's Cabinet, I work on a lot of issues related to children, and one statistic that really troubles me is that 50% of the children in America aren't taught history and civics. And you think about that. It's obvious that more than 50% of the people in Washington haven't been taught history or civics because of what they're trying to do. And the reason it's important is because you have to understand the foundation of the country and the origin of the country to really appreciate what it's all about. You have to understand that this was the first country in the history of man where the people said government is not the master, government's the servant. And it only has that power which we, the people, give it. And what's unique about this country is that we believe not in government to answer our problems, but in the power of each and every person, and in the possibilities of each and every person. What's unique about us, we put it in our founding document. All men and women are created equal. It's not just words, we believe it to our core. And we believe that all men and women have certain natural rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of the press. And what's unique about this country is we believe those rights aren't granted to us by government, they're granted to us by God. That's what makes this country stand out. And if you understand that, then you would stop looking to the government for solutions. And because we were the first country in the history of man to set forth these principles and believe in the possibilities of each and every person, regardless of where you came from or what your background was, people have flocked to our shores for hundreds and hundreds of years, since the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock. It's what brought my great-grandfather here in 1891. He was 6 years old. He came here from Germany, and he ended up having a small farm in Illinois. And then his son, my grandfather, was a skilled laborer. My dad still drives a dump truck. And then I went to college, the first person in our family to go to college. But what an amazing, every person in this room has the same story. At some point, your family came here, seeking the freedoms that we all enjoy. And we can't take it for granted. And so when you see what's going on in Washington, D.C., and you see them looking at government to answer every ill, and you know that that's wrong. You know it won't work. It's never worked. And you know as well that people are fed up everywhere you go. Many people that have sat on the sidelines for years have said, we're not going to allow you to destroy the foundation of the greatest country that has ever existed in the history of mankind. So it's refreshing in a way to see that middle America has woken up, that people are ready to fight back, and they're ready to fight for their country. Talking about that, I saw a couple of you when we had a deployment here of the National Guard a couple of weeks ago, and I've spoken now 5 deployments, and it is really moving when you realize that these men and women all either joined or re-upped, knowing that they were going to be deployed for 400 days, knowing that they were going to be going away from their families and their work for more than a year, and that's an amazing spirit of public service. And I was so proud to be at one of the deployments right here in Lakeland. Some just amazingly patriotic. It's moving. I made sure I especially talked to the families that had, 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds, because those people are going to miss one of those precious years of life of their child, and they do it with a willing heart. So you should be so proud and supportive, not only of the men and women in the Florida National Guard, but of their families who are serving too, and holding down the fort while their husband or wife is off serving this country. As Lieutenant Governor, one of the things I do is work in the Office of Drug Control, oversee the Office of Drug Control, and there's an issue that's come up there that really bleeds over into this campaign for Attorney General. Fortunately, you're insulated from it here. But down in Broward County, we have a monstrous problem we do not want to spread around Florida. The federal government has done a survey of the 50 doctors in America that write the most prescriptions for oxycodone. And 39 of them are in Broward County. And it's the whole country. 10 more are in Florida. 49 out of 50 are in Florida. So what they've done is they figured out it's a lot easier to deal illegally with legal drugs than it is to go down to Colombia and import cocaine, and that's a lot more dangerous. So they're making an industry out of this, and so you have fronts, they look like they're pain clinics, except one thing is they have armed guards at the front door. They're cash-only businesses. They're carrying out $200,000 or $300,000 a day in trash bags and cash. And down in Broward County, you know that breeds even more and more crime. And so 2 weeks ago, I announced a statewide task force where we're bringing together the state attorneys, we're bringing together the sheriffs, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the DEA, everybody, and we're going to focus all of our efforts and try to build a perimeter around Broward County and break this up, because we do not want this spreading across Florida. There's another reason beyond crime, though, what you probably don't realize, is 6 people die a day in Florida from the abuse and overdose of legal prescription drugs. That's more than die from all other illegal drugs combined. I mean, that is a startling statistic. If you think about 6 a day, over 40 a week, I mean, that is an amazing statistic, and one we're going to try to bring it into. We talked a little bit about the Attorney General's race, and you've got an even more exciting guest than some elected official guy. I can't wait to hear his story. And the fact that he smiles, James, you can see from his smile what a great heart he has. And I told him, if they make those posters persistence, they should just put him on it, because it's obvious that he also has a very strong heart as well. So I'm excited to hear his message. I'm running for Attorney General, and I won't go into a lot of details today because I want to hear him, and I know you do too. But I'm excited about it. It's something I've really planned and trained for my whole life. It is really, I think, an opportunity to look out for job one for government. Our founding fathers, they didn't think government should be involved in everything in our life, but there's one thing they did think government existed for, and that was to provide for the safety and security of the citizens, ensure domestic tranquility is how they put it. But if government exists for any reason at all, it's for that, to make sure, when you lay your pillow down at night on your head, your head down on your pillow, you tuck your kid or your grandkid, you're safe in your home. You're safe at your business in the middle of the day. That's what government has to do right if it doesn't do anything else right. And that's what I see the role of the Attorney General is, to work with our 67 sheriffs, and you got a great one here, to work with our 20 state attorneys, and to have an organized plan of attack against crime in Florida. And so I would take what I'm doing as an example with the Office of Drug Control and build on that and make sure that we bring to bear all the resources that we have in Florida to fight crime. It shouldn't really matter if you live in South Florida or North Florida or East or West or Central Florida. The citizens of all 67 counties deserve the same level of justice and the same level of protection from crime. I'm not so sure that's happening right now, but I think you can use the Attorney General's office to do that. And that's something I would fight very hard to do. And there are other things. Obviously, Bill McCollum's done a fantastic job fighting these predators online who prey on our children. And it is a big problem with not enough resources being developed. Because of budget cuts in the legislature, there are only 16 people working in the Attorney General's cybercrime unit right now. And that's not enough resources devoted to a very important issue, which is to protect our children. And, cybercrime goes beyond that, though. There are so many people on the internet now that are preying on our senior citizens with scams to rob them of their life savings, and we've got to deal with that harshly. Something I helped pass legislation. I served in the House of Representatives for 6 years, and many of the bills that I sponsored dealt with, repeat violent felons and people that prey on our children and people that prey on our seniors. That's where punishment really needs to be dished out severely, in my view. Finally, I just want to say this, and I could talk a long time. I'm not going to do that to you in the middle of the day. Because I did come from humble beginnings, and my dad taught me a lot about work ethic, and I've had a lot of jobs in my life. I've dug ditches for plumbers. I've unloaded trucks in the loading docks in the night shift. I've done a lot of things, painted houses. I know what it's like to go home at the end of the day covered in dirt and sweat from working a hard day's work. And I'm not afraid to work hard, and I think that's made me a better person for it. But you get a lot of politicians that stand up and they say, if you elect me, I'm going to fight for the average citizen. I'm going to fight for the regular guy. I'm going to fight for the ordinary American. I will never say that, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't believe that the guy that picks up your trash the same day every week, and he works 12 hours a day, the guy that goes home exhausted and probably smelly, and when he gets home, his two kids run out of the driveway and they yell, "Daddy, Daddy," and they greet him. I don't think he's ordinary. And I don't think he's average. And I don't think he's regular. He's the king of that castle. And he works hard and pays his taxes. And I don't think the nurse that puts on her scrubs at 4:30 in the morning and works in the hospital and all day on her feet. She's got blood on her and who knows what else. And on the way home, she stops and she gets a couple of Slurpees and takes them to her kids, who come greeting her with that amazing joy that kids have, when she comes home from the end of the day, yelling, "Mommy, Mommy." She's not average to them. She's not ordinary. She's not regular. She's extraordinary. My dad goes to work at 5:30 every day. He's 69 years old. He works 12 hours a day still. Can't get him to slow down. But that work ethic is what helped me get through school, through college and law school. He's not regular. He's not ordinary. He's not average to me. He's my hero. And so my message is simply this. If you do me the honor of electing me, I will tell you this. I will fight for your moms and your dads. I will fight for your brothers and your sisters. I will fight to keep your children and your grandchildren safe. And I will fight for you. Thank you for having me today. God bless each and every one of you. And God bless the great state of Florida.